Assalamualaikum and a very good evening, folks, wherever it is that you are. My name is Meor Addelan, and you are now watching Wacana English Edition. It is a monthly show that we have for all of you guys out there, all our international viewers, our English-speaking audience, because we do always want to tell ourselves, inform ourselves of whatever it is happening within Malaysia, whether it may be political, economical, or the whole social landscape of Malaysia itself. And today, we're going to have a very, very, very interesting topic, a very hard topic, even hard to swallow sometimes, because it does involve the future of the nation. What do I mean by that? Let me just read this out for you guys. We have seen earlier this month, we have seen over 10,000 SPM candidates achieving straight A's. Fantastic, fabulous, awesome. That's what you always want to hear, what you want to read in the papers. All of our kids out there taking SPM, getting the best results that they possibly can. And it was even reported that the Education Director General, Datuk Fakhruddin Ghazali, he said that a better national average grade score of 4.74 was recorded compared to what it was last year, which was 4.86. But even though the tens of thousands of students actually receiving straight A's with their A1s and whatnot, it was also reported that the Education Ministry has confirmed that nearly 30,000 candidates who were registered to sit for the exam didn't actually show up, didn't even take the examination at all. This is including private candidates who were registered to take only one or two subjects. Now, this is not really a small number, 30,000 candidates. In fact, and this has been seen as a wake-up call to the ministry and to the whole nation. These youngsters are the future, as mentioned before. These are the futures of the nation to bring us forward into, to make our country a much better place than where it is right now. And what will happen actually when they have no interest in continuing their education in the tertiary level, and are they really just wanting to become a gig economist moving forward, becoming, stay-at-home workers, working from home, all those kind of things? Those are what we're going to be discussing about today, which is failing SPM. What is happening? And to discuss further about this particular topic, as I said, a juicy one at that, we have together here in the studio. Let me introduce you to our panelists. On my furthest left, we have Datuk Satina Said Saleh, the President of the Malaysian Association for Education. Assalamualaikum, Datuk.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for this privilege.
Thank you. And in the middle of these two lovely ladies, we have the CEO of Tech for Malaysia, Mr. Chan Soon Seng. Soon Seng, how are you doing?
I'm good. I am the thorn among the roses.
Yes.
It's good to be here.
Yeah, I'm part of that thorn actually. So it's fine. You have someone to back you up here. And also together with us, we have Datin Nur Azimah Abdul Rahim, the chairman of the Parent Action Group for Education. Datin, thank you so much for coming down. All right, so let's kick things off with the first block of the discussion. Why is this happening? Failing SPM, why this is happening? Again, let me just read out some numbers for all of our viewers out there. The Ministry of Education, the MOE, has confirmed, as mentioned earlier, 30,000 registered candidates did not sit for SPM 2022. And more worryingly, Datuk, 93,647 SPM candidates have not obtained the examination certificate for 2 years since 2020. Now, these numbers being flaunted around, being spoken around, how do we perceive these numbers? How do we perceive this data? Does it really even matter, Datuk?
Thank you, Mio. Well, the topic itself is very controversial.
Yeah.
Everyone is talking about this particular topic. And, we cannot say that this is something that we can just put aside. And it is a very important issue that we need to discuss. Tonight, I'm representing Malaysian Association for Education, which is one of the oldest associations in the country, over 40 years. So we have been looking at education, the policy of education. But this news actually really gave us a wake-up call. Ourselves, we are pretty concerned. We are totally, we feel sad, of course. But at the same time, we also have to look again, is this something new? whether this has been a trend for the last how many years, even prior to the pandemic.
Yeah.
So rather than just us getting excited about the topic, of course, not only just getting excited,
Yeah.
but we need to sort of look at it in the perspectives whereby that we will be able to look at what type of solution or measures that we can do at the end of these issues.
Yeah.
So, of course, there are a couple of reasons why this could be happening. But I think our concern basically is for us to get to the bottom of the issue, whether we have been hiding a lot of data all this while.
Okay.
One thing, whether we have taken this for granted for too long. If they have left, because now the situation is totally different. We are no longer like what the time that we used to have. After the pandemic, we have gone through different type of system of education.
Sure.
Children are no longer like what it used to be. They were used for 2 years looking at just,
Yeah. Tablets.
tablets, and at the same time, they're kind of comfortable probably that they didn't need to go to school. But notwithstanding that, I think not sitting for an examination,
Yeah.
not actually registered, but yet you're not going to go, somehow they didn't turn up, is the biggest concern. So we feel, get to the bottom of it. Get to them, find out either it is from the Ministry of Education, but also the NGOs that also have been involved in education. For example, PAGE is one of them, TFM is another one, and our own association as well, to the crux of the matter.
Yeah.
Why this thing is happening.
Exactly, because the way that you just explained it, it actually, it gives a bit of an impression that something is wrong here, Ratin. Something's wrong with the whole system. Something's wrong with the education system here in Malaysia specifically. So can we just simply say that there's something wrong with the system, the whole curriculum, the whole style of learning in Malaysia that makes, kids nowadays, youngsters, teenagers, when they're at school, they're not interested anymore?
I think, first of all, it's education begins at home.
Okay.
And a lot of parents very conveniently push the responsibility of education to teachers. But I think it all begins with parents, how they raise their children, how they emphasize education within the family, and what is the advantages and benefits of education, and how education can elevate the lives of the family itself. So if the parents themselves don't believe in that, then the children will continue leading a life of obliviousness, not having targets, not having a direction, and not really knowing what to do and where to go. So it's very important that parents guide their children, and then the education system, the teachers will enhance whatever is being taught in schools. So but there are also parents, because they don't believe in education, they don't emphasize education to their children, and some of them don't even encourage the children to go to school because they don't see the benefit of it. Or they think that, okay, the environment is you will end up being a factory worker, so that's as far as you can go. So why work so hard? In the end, you're gonna be a factory worker, because that's all they know. That is their vision of what adulthood will be for their children.
Because again, funny you should mention that, because like you said, it's totally true. Education starts at home. It's how that particular individual, the child, the teenager, how they are being developed at home and what is being fed to them on a daily basis. I mean, again, if you are being, told daily by your parents, unfortunately, that, you're not going to become, someone, important anyway. So why you want to waste your time and everything? Does this ultimately, would this be a great factor pushing these people aside, pushing these students aside, and not caring anymore about the traditional education as how majority of us, we were brought up? What do you think?
Yeah, thanks, Meor. And so, I think to put some things into context, so from Teach from Malaysia's perspective, we believe that every child, no matter what their background, deserves access to quality education, and that quality education is a key determinant in social mobility and enabling students to realize their potential. We know that research has shown that education and the more education that you have, that's a huge factor in your social mobility for a child. But when we look at what's happened with the recent SPM data, I think that one of the things that's important to ask and what would be helpful to understand more is when we think about these 30,000 students or the almost 50% of students who don't want to pursue tertiary education afterwards, we have to be asking, who are these students, right? And typically what we see is that students from less advantaged backgrounds, students from rural backgrounds, from urban poor backgrounds, from the B40 community, have lower engagement in their education for multi-dimensional factors, right? There are many factors that influence that. So who are these 30,000 students, right? What backgrounds do they come from? And then that's when we're going to be able to understand how do we target solutions for these kids. A couple of things that we need to take note, right? We've just come out of probably the most difficult period that the education institution has faced in the last 100 years, right? And so I think that it is reasonable to see that students have been disengaged during this period of time. Throughout these 2 years, there were approximately 1.3 million students in Malaysia who did not have access or connectivity throughout the pandemic. So you can imagine for some students, that was 2 years without a connection to their education, right? And there were teachers that went above and beyond to figure out how do we connect with these students, but the reality is that they did not have consistent education. So kids will be very, very demotivated to want to do their SPM during this time. The other thing that we have to understand is how engaging is our education and how engaging is the delivery of it. So for the first time, I think the pandemic caused us, so many of us, to ask questions about what's important and what really matters to me in life. If I'm a student and now I'm in my classroom is in my room where I have a computer, I suddenly realize that I have the option to turn off my camera, mute my microphone, and pretend like I'm not there. So if my lesson isn't interesting enough for me, I'm going to walk away from it.
It's just as simple as an off switch, and that's it.
And so you would expect that when it then comes to SPM, students realize this doesn't matter to me, because for so many students in the pandemic whose families were affected economically, it was more important for them to help their family to put food on the table than to try and find an internet connection to access education. And now that they have the choice, and as they're graduating from school, they've already started work, right? And so the relevance of education or SPM is not something that they're considering, right? They're responding to an immediate need that they have.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, this was actually one of the hardest thing to do, because again, speaking from my own experience, being part of my daughter's Parent-Teachers Association, this question has been brought up time and time again. And unfortunately, as what you have declared as well, the disconnection between the lower income families, unfortunately, they're being pushed aside unintentionally, obviously. I mean, obviously, of course, people want everyone to get the same style of education, the same kind of access, but in reality, it just doesn't work like that, unfortunately. So a lot of things that, an individual, a family, or the government needs to look into all these things and tackle them, and to make sure that education is still relevant. Question is that, though, how do we make education relevant right now? As what Soon Singh has been saying, I mean, like, if you can just switch off your camera and mic and just like do one other things and playing video games and whatnot, how do you, again, are we lacking behind? Is the Malaysian education not interesting anymore, that it can attract, kids to learn as they should?
Right. I think first thing I feel that the students needs to be told, why do you need to sit for SPM? SPM actually is supposed to be the exit sort of certificate in their school, secondary school. And after that, they would go into higher education, tertiary education, and so on. So what is happening now, I think we also hear a lot of things. So if you leave SPM, you want to go to the next level. So whether I'm really interested to go, you're not interested to go, if you're being pushed into doing only the academic aspect of education, probably they are not interested because they are not inclined towards that type of education. And secondly, probably, there's a lot of things that is happening now, what do you call this, unemployment rate.
Yes.
You get up from, you get into the higher education institution, you take PTPTN loan.
Yeah.
Once you graduate after 4 years, you're not getting a job.
Yeah.
When you're not getting a job, how do you pay for that? And then you are actually basically burdened with all sorts of things, debts and so on. So on second thoughts, they'll be thinking, how can I be sure when I pursued, after I sit for my SPM, after all, during this pandemic, I had the opportunity to make money.
Yeah.
Some of them made a lot of money. They started running business,
Sure.
and they do Grab driving or whatever it is. So these are the factors that not only the Ministry of Education, but parents, as mentioned by Datin Azimah just now, they need to be aware that we need to answer this question in a more objective way. We are not going to blame anybody, and we are not going to say this is just the fault of the Ministry of Education.
Yeah. So,
yes?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
easiest said than up, like, to make sense into that thing. So SPM doesn't matter. Just chuck it aside. You learn education through life. You don't need papers.
Yeah, but traditionally, right?
Yeah.
The more qualified you are, the higher your take-home income is
Yes.
traditionally. But of course, you have the odd ones, and of course, again, the culprits are Steve Jobs and Bill Gates and Albert Einstein.
Okay. Right.
But that's 1 in a million.
Yeah.
There
There are always an exception to every rule, isn't it?
There is. But what are the chances of you being one of them? There is chance, but a very slim chance. You know. So and you need not even go into, say, university. There are other options like technical college or apprenticeships. Which is nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean that you don't have SPM, that the door is closed for you. But we're just traditionalists, and we think that the higher your qualification is, the more income you get. But again, there are exceptions to. Yeah.
Yeah. Because again, we've seen that transition. First of all, UPSR was scrapped. And then you got your PMR, which was changed to PT3, and then that was scrapped. And then the school was instructed to look at the child's development as early as 7 years old in Standard 1 and how the progress is. So again, Sun Seng, if that progress matters and there's a matrix there for a child to perform in all sorts of branches per se, where does SPM stand in this? I mean, like, again, we don't want to dish out SPM, obviously, because, again, traditionally, it's there for a reason. But, why is this happening?
Yeah, I think that SPM still has a role to play in the Malaysian education system, and as an exit ticket and also as an entrance into higher education, it's important as an indicator of performance, right? The challenge with the Malaysian education system was that we had previously been over testing children with very high stakes exams at too many points in time, but you still need your exit point at the end of your schooling, at the end of your schooling system. The shift towards classroom-based assessments, school-based assessments, I think in theory and from a policy perspective is a good shift.
All right.
Because ideally that is able to help teachers to, number one, understand their students' levels, and then to be able to cater their learning and differentiate to the needs of their students and track that over time, right?
All right, just hold on to that point. Just drop that pencil now, because we do have to take a short break right now. Yes, this is somewhat of an exam to all our panelists. We will come back after the short break to hear more of what Sun Seng has to say and to further discuss about this topic here on the Wacana English edition. Sorry to cut you off there. Yeah. Usually that's how it is. Most of our guests would come up with like, oh, I got 20.
PN, Perikatan Nasional, seems to be a better party, a cleaner party. Even we have prepared ourselves to be ready to continue the struggle of UMNO. So we like to invite UMNO's members who are not happy with their situation, the leadership situation. Please, you can migrate to PN at any time.
Any regrets quitting UMNO?
No, for me, yeah, I'm not regretting at all. I'm happy to be in the other party because UMNO is so entrenched into like corruption practice, and then running away from the very principle they have advocated many years ago.
Welcome back to the school. Specifically, welcome back to the classroom. Well, we're talking about education here. We're talking about SPM, and we're failing it, unfortunately, with 3 panelists that we have brought specifically for you. We got the man in the middle. We got Sun Seng. We also have Datuk Satina as well as Datin Azimah together with us discussing this very hot topic. Before we took our break just now, Sun Seng, you were talking about how SPM is the endpoint, is the so-called starting block, basically, for you to go to that next level. Yep. Elaborate some more for us, please.
Yeah. So SPM has a role to play in helping students to understand where they're ending out in their secondary school and really their whole schooling education, right? But I think part of the challenge is that the Malaysian education system has been so entrenched in examinations that the purpose of education has become about the number of A's that you get.
And not even that, they want 99 or 100.
Sure, and we're taking the focus away from what is the actual meaning of learning, right?
Right.
Is the meaning of learning to learn because I'm interested and to just learn for the sake of learning, or is the meaning of learning to get an X number of A's in an examination?
Yeah.
And so our system has been so entrenched in that. So we need to ask ourselves, what are our students engaged with, and are they engaged in their learning? And I think that when we think about engagement, there's really two kind of things, right? Some of us, when we've gone through school, there may be subjects that we didn't like. So for example, right, when this wasn't school, but when I was in university, for some reason, I loved doing law units.
Okay.
Law is really boring and you have to memorize a lot of stuff.
All right.
But I had a great law lecturer.
All right.
And so when we think about engagement, number one, we think about relationships. Do you have a teacher that is able to build relationships with their students? And so if you have a teacher who cares about you, if you have a teacher who is able to make things interesting for you because they understand you as a person, students are going to be more engaged. And then number two, when we think about engagement, we think about relevance. Is a teacher able to help a student connect what they're learning in the classroom to real life? Connect it to their interests as an individual. And so then we have to ask ourselves, are students engaged in their learning? And when we shift the focus of education to it's about exams, it's about getting an A, then that isn't going to engage many students, and especially students who haven't felt success academically because of many factors. That idea that education is for the purpose of scoring A's isn't going to engage kids. And it's really through relationships and relevance that you're going to be able to engage kids in their learning.
And definitely, Datin, when Sun Seng was mentioning about this, relationships and engagement, those are one of the 2 major pull and push factor that excites, that will entice anyone out there, not just students actually, anybody in any kind of environment who would want to stick to whatever it is that they're doing. So, to your opinion, furthermore, Datin, what would other factors be then? I mean, why students are dropping out, why they're not interested anymore in their classroom education? Is it just as simple as that? People are not able to engage and be relevant to you anymore?
Well, I think for primary school, possibly, especially, if, but the thing is that when you have 30, 35, 40 in a class, how is that teacher going to give the personal attention to the student?
It's quite impossible, isn't it?
It's near impossible. And then for the older students, once you're 16, you can be employed. You have 500 ringgit at the end of the month in your pocket. your parents are not going to give you that 500 ringgit. You know, it means extra money, extra pocket money for you. And the parents probably thinking, I don't have to give him 500 ringgit this month because he's earned it, you know. So for the parent, okay lah, why don't you just continue working rather than going to school, you know, and then maybe something will come out of it, you know, especially with parents who actually need, again, putting
putting food on the table. You need that side income.
It comes to that, actually, you know. And if you have 1 or 2 children bringing in, say, 1,000 ringgit a month extra, it is a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Why go to school when you can bring in so much, you know? And in employment, of course, employers like the younger people to come in because they're more energetic.
Sure.
You know, they've got they're more energetic, basically, you know, at that level, you know, 16, 17 years old. Yeah. So they'd rather give 1,000 ringgit to this youngster who can do so much, carry things, etc., rather than older person. Yeah. You know, so it makes a lot of sense, actually. But then on the other hand, if you see, if you read the SPM immediately after COVID, there was a record number of attendees for SPM, surprisingly. Right. But it has since dropped. And I think the reason is because at that time, there were no jobs to go to. And this time, the difference is that jobs are opening up for teenagers, you know, for 16 and above. So this is why we've suddenly seen that drop, because they need to supplement the household income.
Yeah, that particular discussion, because again, education, it is being wrapped up, you know, with the household income. At the end of the day, it's fine if you're a family of just one child. You can give the whole resources that you may have to that one particular child. But these problems, unfortunately, happens to families of 4 or 5, you know, unfortunately living in very, very bad environment, that kind of a thing. Especially during the first couple of months during MCO, we hear a lot of things where, you know, young teenagers have involved themselves with something which is not good, obviously, you know, associating themselves with extracurricular activities, which is not beneficial, obviously, and it deters that spirit of wanting to go back to school. Yeah, because again, as what Dato' has mentioned, Dato', if I can earn $10, even 10 ringgit in a day, what's the point of me entering school? What's the point of me marking on those papers, learning history, learning maths, learning algebra that you may not even use down the line, whereas I can just earn 10 ringgit or 20 ringgit a day, and I'm helping myself, I'm buying myself nice things. So that's something that needs to be done with our curriculum to make it more enticing to the younger generations.
I look at this perspective of disconnect.
Okay.
I just feel that when kids, they are in school, they need to understand, actually, not only just going to school and learning, sitting for examination, but I think the meaning to education is very important. You need to understand the meaning. What do you do other than just going to school and learning, completing your syllabus? Are they being engaged with probably things like the youth movement, for them to understand, really to bring the best in them, the talent in them? What do we do? Whether the Ministry of Youth and Ministry of Education could work together and bringing these kids as well. That is one aspect. And another aspect that I feel, they are so not exposed to the higher education sort of life. Why can't we have 20 public universities? We have many private universities. Yes. We should actually, when talk about we, mean the Ministry of Education, they should start drawing activities together with not only universities, but also could be the private universities, private schools. How these kids can be exposed, you know, how they will understand, the next level that I should be doing will be higher education. So what is the meaning of it? So you are not actually getting a shock. I finished SPM, I'm going to go to higher education. Yeah. What does it mean if I can earn money, if I can do other things better than going to school? But of course, then we talk about how boring probably in the classroom they are, you know, going through certain lessons. I am not blaming those teachers themselves. I truly believe that we have those teachers who are really good. I think, Sun Seng, you would agree with me, you could be the best teachers that we have in our country. Yeah. But what do we do with them? Are they motivated enough to really spend enough time with our children? Correct. Are they being given continuous education, retraining? These are the amount of money that should be spent, like what is happening in Singapore and Indonesia. Yeah. From early childhood education, they are already been given sufficient allocation. But I think not only that we didn't bother so much about the early childhood, we also neglect them. So they are like in the middle. So the disconnect factor
Alright.
plays a very important role, in my opinion. I
Yeah.
think these are the things that not only the Ministry of Education, NGOs should look at it as well. And how do we work around this this aspect?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is so true because again, as much as I mean, even in an instance, you get the best educator out there, you get the most cheerful teacher out there, you get the most creative teacher out there, but putting in a situation where he or she has to cater to 40 kids in a classroom and able to actually grab that attention right there, sit down and listen to me, that kind of thing. Traditionally, it was fine. I mean, again,
Right.
we were brought up back then where, again, like we were talking off camera earlier, that you don't just bring me A's, you bring me 99, you bring me 100.
Yes.
Those kind of things, because it was planted in our heads that we need to get those A's because I want to get my tertiary education. I want to go to the best colleges out there. I want to get the scholarship. I want to go overseas. I want to study in Harvard. I want to study in Royal College of Surgeons or whatever it is. How do you, again, you were mentioning that just now, Asun, saying like that engagement and that relevance is not there. How do you make it relevant still? Because again, with the gig economy right now, you got, digital designers, you got TikTokers who are making tons and tons of money. Should we bring a TikToker to school and tell them like, this is a career path for you? Or am I being too much here?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things that we need to look at, Meor. So first is when we think about engagement, what might that look like? The second thing that we have to realize is that expectations are different for different students. And we have to figure out how school is a leveling playing field for students from different backgrounds. And then we have to think about the fact of whether students have access to choice of what they want to do moving forward, right? So first from an engagement experience, it is very, very challenging in classrooms where you have 40 children. When I was a teacher, I had 42 kids in a class. It is very challenging, especially if you're delivering education in a traditional model. So if the teacher is talking at the front and trying to be interesting enough to get the attention of 40 different kids, really that's not going to work.
Yeah.
But a lot of the way, and the Ministry of Education's push really is how do we shift away from that traditional learners as receptacles and recipients of knowledge that they have to absorb and download from their teachers, to teachers being facilitators of learning that help their students to be creators of knowledge, help their students to proactively engage in learning, and shift to a more student-centered approach. And if teachers are able to make that shift towards more student-centered learning, teachers are actually more able to spend time or more able to engage the broader set of students because students are actively learning. The teacher's not the one standing at the front.
All right.
The students are learning together and the teacher is able to then walk amongst the kids and give kids more individualized attention. And that's what the whole classroom-based assessment system is pushing towards or supposed to help teachers work towards. So number one, there are ways to change the way that learning happens in the classroom. And to what Dr. Satina said, we need to invest more in professional development for teachers. Because although the Ministry of Education has the largest budget out of all ministries, a lot of that, the majority of that is spent on operational costs and very little of it is spent on teacher professional development.
All right.
So number one, we need to shift the way that that learning happens. Number two, when we think about expectations for kids, for those of us who grew up in backgrounds where we even knew what Harvard was, we even knew what Cambridge was, right? Well, there was another teacher from Malaysia fellow who was teaching with me in my school, and when they heard that he was from Cambridge, they thought that he studied English because Cambridge was the dictionary.
The dictionary, yeah.
Right? But he did a theoretical physics at Cambridge, right? So nothing to do with English. But to even know what Cambridge is, to even know what Harvard is a privilege. And there are some kids who go to school with family expectations that they are going to university and that's just the thing that they will do. And there are some kids who go to school whose parents don't even know or don't even believe to what Dr. Nazima was saying, that university is an option for their kids. And so school needs to be that level playing field where we are from very young exposing kids to the range of career opportunities and helping them to understand how their education and how they're learning today, even in Standard 1, when you're learning about science in Standard 1, how is that relevant to you one day getting a job? in a broad range of fields. And the final thing is really about choice, right? When we talk about, sometimes we look down on, like, these TikTok influencers or these gig workers and stuff. Ultimately, I think that at the end of the day, what we want for all of our students is for them to have choice. And the saddening fact of kids not turning up for SPM at all is that now their choices in life are going to be completely limited. Right? Because like it or not, it is a ticket. SPM is a ticket. And so how do we help kids to have access to choice and know that, if what they truly are most passionate about in life is to be a TikTok influencer, then let them be a TikTok influencer and let them be the best TikTok influencer that there is, right? But if they feel that that is the only option for them, or being a Grab driver or a delivery person is the only option for them, or the best that they could possibly do, then I think we have a problem there. Right. And so helping kids to know that and giving them the access to whatever range of options that is available to them, that's what we need to help kids figure out.
Yeah, I think, me personally, it would be a scary thought for me to just tell my daughter, yeah, you can be the best TikToker there is. Again, I can't just find it in me to actually say those words. But that thing, as what Sun Sing was actually mentioning, you need to have this variance of style of learning and everything. But all habits die hard. It's not easy. It's not something that you can just switch on and implement it directly. We've tried that before. Every single time, there's a change of government, there's new initiatives that comes in, but everything has been tried or not tried fully 100%, and it has gotten us nowhere, unfortunately. Your comment, Latin?
We had the Malaysian Education Blueprint 2013 to 25. And I think that it's been long forgotten, even though we haven't reached 2025. And if I think we had followed that thoroughly, closely, properly, diligently, religiously, we wouldn't be where we are now.
Okay.
Because
Can we blame it on the pandemic, though?
No, I think the problem already started. The reason why we had the blueprint is because we saw what was ahead of us.
Right.
And that's why, and then we were supposed to follow it closely, but we didn't. We failed along the way, and I think that we have to maybe come back, reverse, and actually see what the problem is. And I think when we are now talking about SPM failing, it's already a bit too late.
Okay.
The red flags should have been shown in primary school already. If the child isn't reading and not writing and not adding and multiplying, then these are already red flags, which should have been addressed by teachers and parents. Not leave it to Form 5 and realize what on earth happened the last X number of years. And some of those who go to university, those who make it to university, the universities are blaming the school system. Why are these, university students not up to grade, not up to mark when they come? Why are they pushing the problem to the university lecturers when it should have been addressed in primary and secondary school? So I think we have to go back and look and see. We have to hold hands with the students. We have to get the counselors more involved, I think. Because some parents, they rely so much on school teachers and counselors for their children's future because they don't know any better. So when the counselor decides, I'm going to label these children, some are of no use, some may carry on, but the ones that are of no use, we can't do anything about it. It's been labeled already by the counselor. Instead of picking it out and working through the challenges with the students.
Challenges. Yeah, it is such a... It is, as what you mentioned, that it is an ongoing thing that has been being passed on. And unfortunately, we Malaysians, we are very good at this Tai Chi game, if you guys get me, trying to pass the buck to the next person. It is not my problem, it's the next guy's problem. And it is something that I believe that the stakeholders especially needs to take control and take responsibility with the supports of the NGOs like yourselves, trying to make Malaysia at least a better place moving forward. As what Dato' has mentioned, we need to hold it hand in hand. Hold my hand, folks, hold my hand, because we need to bring the kids out for a better Malaysia. But don't go anywhere yet. We're going to take a short recess. Yes, we do need to get these ladies to the canteen later on, but we'll be back for the third block here down at the Wacana English edition. Don't go away.
Proklamasi Orang Melayu, which is advocated by Tuan Mahathir, I think will help, in a way, all efforts towards uniting the Malay, because we are the majority in this country.
Third and final subject of the day. Yes, we are still actually talking about the same subject. SPM failing. You know what is going on here with all of our three panels that we have down here. And now we have come to the third block of the discussion. It is a very hard one, the long-term effect. And I'm drawn to you, Dato', for this question because I know you're so eager to answer this with your wisdom, with your knowledge, and with your expertise. Is our education system in crisis, Dato'?
It's a good question.
There you go.
But I always believe
Yeah.
education is a matter of the heart.
All right.
It is not something that we do it on a daily basis and not connecting it with the heart.
Okay.
Because we are talking about the future generation. So who are the stakeholders of education in our country? No longer the Ministry of Education or Ministry of Higher Education. All of us in this country are stakeholders to education. So what the last few years, couple of years, almost all of us been involved in what we call it as PPP. But now, yesterday, the last 3 days, I have learned another P has come in.
Oh,
That is public-private philanthropic partnership.
all right.
So that aspect of 4Ps now, 4PPP, needs to be enhanced in order for us to really look at the long-term issues. I am actually sometimes totally, I don't know what word I can use, annoyed,
Okay.
angry,
Irritated?
irritated, because when people from outside, the public, the private people, the philanthropists or whatever it is that is wanting to come in and help the system, these people should be welcomed in a way that they are coming to join us to help us solve the issue of the country.
Sure.
But I have not until today, the last 10 years I have not seen that the Ministry of Education, I am blaming the Ministry of Education to a certain extent, welcoming this type of effort initiatives in a more objective way. I think they need to relook at this because the future of education, it is utmost important, not by the Ministry of Education, but we parents, we want to know. We stakeholders, we want to know. Sung Seng, the TFM, they want to know you give the best. So let them start opening their eyes and let all of us from the private sectors think about how best we can help teachers who are not getting enough continuous, what you call this, training, development in terms of learning and relearning. Let these people from outside come and help them. But they must prepare, they must produce actually the sort of a mechanism whereby this type of activities can be done in a more structured manner. I must say this, Datina Azimah and myself, we were in the Majlis Penasihat Pendidikan Kebangsaan, BPK, from 2018 and 2020. We came out with an amazing report that we talk about many issues in education that we are talking about now, whether it is religious education, whether it is what you call this special needs education, or public-private philanthropic partnership. But I think those are the things that should be picked up, should we look at it. And we're not going to go, I think I heard now, I'm rather worried people, they are going to talk about announcement to say, I'm not going to mention who, we're going to relook at the policy. We should revamp the policy. What are we going to do again?
Funny enough, because again, you literally just mentioned this a few minutes ago, that we actually have already a place, a blueprint that we should have followed, we should have stick to it. So what does this mean? Another reform, another blueprint? How many blueprints do we need?
Actually, it's good to have a blueprint. This one's ending already, and maybe we need to review and refresh, and we need another blueprint post 2025. And I think we, the Ministry of Education, is actually in the midst of doing it.
Okay.
But it is a guide, and it's a guide that is important because it has targets, has goals, and but if you don't have that, you don't have direction. You know? But I think most importantly is that the lack of accountability is something that we talk about, but because there is no accountability by schools, districts, or states, then everybody. That's why we're not moving forward, because nobody is being accountable.
Yeah, hence the Tai Chi game earlier. I was saying.
So because of that, when there's nobody accountable, then nobody's responsible, nobody gets reprimanded for things that don't happen, and it just goes on and on and on, you know, and they keep doing the same old thing and getting the same old results, and that's why we're not moving.
Yeah,
you know,
and it is such a scary sight, Sun Sing, when you look at it in the future. I mean, these are, as what we have discussed earlier on the show, staggering numbers, 30,000 numbers. And the trend is, unfortunately, I believe, is going of an upward trend. And it is definitely causing a lot of concerns for the nation moving forward into the future, Sun Sing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think if you think about Malaysia's developmental aspirations, and we think about, we always talk about becoming a high-income nation, and what is it going to take in order to become a high-income nation? Ultimately, it's talent that is going to drive that effort. And if we look at the needs in order to become a high-income nation, I think I was reading YB Rafizi Ramli saying that we need 2 million more people in higher skilled jobs than we currently have. And so when we think about what's it going to take to have higher skilled jobs, education obviously is the key to that answer. So if students aren't engaged in education and aren't engaged in furthering their education and becoming technical experts in various fields, then we're going to see that challenge. And we think about this idea of a higher income nation, but also we think about the idea that the future of this world is going to be predicated on the solutions that our students come up with. We think about the sustainability of our planet. We think about the peace of this planet, right? And the biggest issues that our world is facing. Our students need to be developed to be able to address those solutions. So there is a huge economical challenge, right? Predictions or calculations off of the World Bank's analysis of learning loss predict the students from this cohort, this generation that has experienced COVID, losing about over 750 billion ringgit in a lifetime income loss for this generation. That's just economically. But when we think about the kind of solutions that we need to live in a sustainable world, we need our students to be developed to be able to be thinking of those things. And a lot of those things are going to be some of the high-skilled things, right? When we think about the energy transition, there's going to be new, innovative, game-changing engineering solutions that our students need to create. You, at this point in time, do need to go to university to be able to figure out how some of those solutions are going to happen. And so there's a lot of long-term implications for this.
And I think one of the initiatives that Malaysia is finally on board right now is the existence of TVET, for instance, because the world is not just about theory. I believe, personally for myself, being educated abroad, where I've had the chance of being very close to practical studies and whatnot 80% of the time. And Malaysia is finally moving towards that. And that's definitely opening up more and more opportunities, more and more incentives, at least for the kids out there, for the SPM leavers, for anyone for that matter, to expand their world in not just in theory, but more on practical items as well. Mechanics, carpenters, electrician, you name it. That's definitely a good move, Dato'.
I think the notion in our country, they always sort of have this stigma. If you are doing TVET or skills training,
Yeah.
you are like a second
class.
Good,
Yeah.
you're not the best students. I think that type of notion should be erased. No longer. Look at other countries like
Yeah.
Germany and New Zealand, for that matter.
Guilty.
They are ahead, you know. But I think another notion that I forgot to mention just now, we need to understand this generation.
Yeah.
The millennials, they were different. Their emphasis were different.
Yeah.
But Gen Z, they are different. They are
They're called
looking
Z,
at
is
things.
it now?
Yeah.
I lost count actually. Which
But I think I had the chance of talking about the Gen Z with a few university students recently, University of Cyberjaya. And what happened actually, their concerns a lot to do with sustainability, environment.
Wow.
And it's not just about making money, but making meaning to their life. I was actually taken aback. And I did little of, research and here and there. So they are the truth. So understanding our generation in line with the system that we are introducing, it is important. The curriculum, whether we like it or not, we need to change. The examination, evaluation needs to be changed because we have gone through this pandemic for 2 years.
Yeah.
It is totally different now. We have got, technology has gone so far, and kids at the age of, I don't know, my granddaughter is 2 years old, but she is very good in looking at stuff in the internet.
Yeah.
You know?
Researching herself.
Research, and these are the things that we mustn't forget.
Yeah.
Knowledge is no longer from teachers.
Yeah.
They could search knowledge from different parts, just
Not even
slap on the
libraries
finger.
anymore.
No more libraries, and we are left behind.
Yeah.
We are left behind, and things like this, we need to be awakened. We need to realize, don't just talk about the system of education. We need to talk about what type of curriculum we're going to do.
All right. Coming to that thing, what kind of curriculum that we can actually do that thing? What do you think that would entice these kids, these teenagers, these SPM leavers would, what they want to hear? All right, I want to go to, X university or Y university because they offer these kind of things. What would entice them more, encourage them more? To your opinion?
I think before we were talking about transformation, right? I think now we should be looking at reforms in education, and I think what we should do is what is the government thinking about how the direction the economy is going? Is it really digital economy that we want to get into and beyond? If that is so, then work backwards. How do students need to be educated if we are gonna have this type of high level labor force? Work backwards, And one of the things, definitely, we the internet is so important. We need to, and the language of knowledge is still the English language. We've been going on with this. This is what we have been advocating.
Yeah.
And even today, I think the Malaysian Economic Malaysian Economic Forum, I think they said that Malaysian Employees Federation came out, said that MNCs have said that they are not going to employ students who fail English and math.
All right.
And I think this is major.
Okay.
Because I think that in the last SPM, I think 92,000 students failed maths. So this is very serious.
Yep.
So I think we have to work backwards and see what needs to be changed in the curriculum. And maybe one of the things, if they want to really reduce the number of SPM failures, maybe one of them is probably not to make history a compulsory pass anymore.
All right.
Because this is where the majority of the failures are coming from. It's not BM.
Yeah. It's history.
Yeah. It is.
Tough subject, that one. Yeah, I remember history way back then. But okay, let's change gears a bit. We're almost coming to the end of the show, but we do want to talk about what is to happen with private institutions. We know for a fact that, the 20 public colleges, public universities, they're going to be there. Worst case scenario, they're just going to combine from two, become one, those kind of things, how things transform. But private educators, those private universities, private colleges, Sun Seng, what is to become of them if you don't have candidates who actually took SPM? Because at the end of the day, you don't have SPM, you don't have qualification, you can't enter my university. If the trend goes up, no admissions and nothing, they're going to be closed down. That's scary.
Yeah. I think that the immediate issue that a lot of private higher education institutions face is really the impact of COVID and being able to financially sustain themselves. The reality is that more and more students are going into private higher education institutions, but whether they're going to exist to meet the demand of the supply is actually a challenge now because of how affected these institutions have been by COVID. I think some of the things that are promising is that our most cutting-edge private higher education institutions are doing some really interesting things. And that's where we see a lot of innovation. And the reality is that higher education is going to need to reimagine itself. And it's not just a Malaysian conversation. It's a global issue, right? Is higher education relevant? I read a survey recently that 2/3 of Americans don't feel that higher education is relevant anymore, right? And so it's not just a Malaysian issue, it's a global issue. And so private higher education institutions, they can lead in the forefront of reimagining what higher education looks like, but the reality is many of them are affected. And if they continue to just try and push forward a traditional model, that's where the challenge may be.
But the fallback of it, the effects of it would affect the nation's GDP as well, the whole economy as well. Because like at the end of the day, like you said, and we are a nation where we tend to follow what our Western brothers and sisters are actually doing. And should we adapt to that? Should those people, those Americans are saying that tertiary education is not important anymore and it's going to be a downer, we would be more left behind even from the start even, Dato', you think?
Well, I think our country is slightly different than them.
Okay.
I think we can't just look at higher education alone. Higher education can be people going to teachers training institute. That is also tertiary education. You're going to be doing your diploma to start with, But it is relevant whether we like it or not. But I think higher education might change. The landscape will be slightly different. You're not going to be focused in just academic per se. You're going to go into technical, which is already, we see the trend now is coming up. They are looking at countries like Germany, like New Zealand, whereby that students will be willing to come in. And they will have their own bridging program to come in. Not only with SPM alone, you can have any other certificate or whatever it is, qualification that you can bring them in. But you need to go through slightly longer time. So leave them. This one thing about the private institutions, because they need to survive by having students, but they also need to survive by having quality education so that parents would want to send their children to them. So I think I'm more concerned about our public universities. I'm really very concerned because I don't want at the end of the day, those 20 public universities with the best physical being, infrastructure, will have probably a couple of only students. And what will happen? They become big elephants sitting in one state to another. I think those are our concern. And we will lose out a lot because I think the best can still be done for our higher education institution. But the Ministry of Education, they need to work together. As I mentioned earlier, they should have sort of a bridge. There's a time for them to go. No disconnect. When you disconnect, a lot of things can happen. And allow the students to understand, to recognize their talents. What am I good at? Am I good at this? But when you don't allow them, you don't have the right counselors, you don't have the right teachers to talk to them about wanting to do this, wanting to do that, and we always discourage. Parents are the worst. They always will say, I want my children to be doing professional, including my husband. He used to do that to our children,
All right.
But as a teacher, I was a teacher, we never bothered because you always believe, let the child do something that they like to do, but at the same time, not to become a TikTok influencer just like that. I wouldn't want that to happen as well,
Perhaps,
and I think these are the things that choices. Sun Sing was mentioning about choices and also their own creativity. It is no longer like what before. Meor, things have changed so much. We have to change. We need to be relevant, so we need to learn new things from the young people.
Exactly. We need to learn those TikTok steps. We need to, raise up whatever it is because we want to stay relevant to make sure that our children are taken care of. We understand their needs. We understand their demands. We understand their creativity and not hinder them, but still within proper molding, I would say. Given freedom, but still within supervision and guidance as per. We are, again, running almost out of time, but I do want to get each and every one of you to summarize a bit on what the topic is today. We'll start off with Datin Nazima. Floor is yours.
I think it is important that the Ministry of Education themselves realize that there is an education crisis. I'm afraid they don't,
All right.
and which is why we are where we are.
All right. Okay. Wow, short and sweet right there. Sun Seng,
Yeah,
you echoes Datin's comments.
Absolutely, and I think that a huge way that we need to invest in this education crisis is really through quality teachers. So at Teach for Malaysia, we believe that quality teachers or the impact of a teacher is one of the most significant things in the outcomes of a student. So a bit of a plug, Teach for Malaysia is about to start recruiting our 2024 cohort. This July recruitment will open, and so as that's what Satina was saying, education is all of our responsibility. So we are calling on this generation of young, passionate Malaysians to take up that call and join Teach for Malaysia as a teacher, serving kids in some of the most high-need schools in the country.
Nice, great. Dato, last words to you.
I want to use that word collaboration, partnership, and sharing. I think it's not just responsibility of Ministry of Education, parents, and the public and the private. I think we need to work together.
Yeah.
We need to look at the system. This is our country.
Yes.
You know, you can't just allow things to happen. We should be able to make noise.
Yeah.
So we are not happy with the system now. Do something about it.
Yeah.
But don't keep changing policies. You keep changing policies. And we need to get these politicians out of this business. They have always been the intruders and coming, whatever good policies, they come in to put their interests above all these things first.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have to say that.
Yep. Yeah, we totally understand that.
Yeah.
It's about coming together. It's about, like what Datin Nazima has actually said, being hand in hand to ensure the future of Malaysia is preserved the best way possible. Folks, we have had such a blast here together with all our panelists. Once again, Datin Nur Azima Abdul Rahim, the chairman of the Parent Action Group for Education. We have Mr. Chan Soon Seng, the CEO of Teach for Malaysia. And of course, Datuk Satina Said Saleh, the president of the Malaysian Association for Education. Thank you so much for coming down on Wacana English Edition. That's it. School's out. Yes, you can take your leave. You can now go and enjoy yourselves. But hopefully this episode has given you a bit of a reminder of how important it is. Yes, education is important, but it's also important for all of you, aging people out there to understand what the young ones adapt and understand what the demand is for the future. Not forgetting as well to all Muslims out there, Salam Aidil Adha to everyone, which is happening inshallah next week. So for all of you guys, my name is Meor Addelan. This has been Wacana English Edition. We'll see you guys again on the next one. Assalamualaikum. Bye. Good night.